All right. So this is the book we'll be reading today and discussing. And I am not used to using this feature, so I'm practicing on my small channel. Thank you all for your patience. What we can see in the background is this. They told me it was alpaca wool. Alpaca wool. I bought it at a marketplace in Michoacan, Mexico, when I went there for a conference last year. Because on the bus, it's extremely freezing cold. So you're taking this bus to go to a new city. It's like 2 or 3 hours long drive. And they have the air conditioning blasting the whole time, right? In this enclosed space. So it's not actually comfortable, it's freezing. So when I got to my destination, I'm like, I am buying something really, really warm to wear on the way back. And so I got this alpaca wool poncho, and I use it now just like this on my desk or on my bed. I like to use it as a backdrop. It looks kind of rustic. And like I said, I don't think it's real because it only cost me 400 or 500 pesos, which is like less than $30. But it's like super comfortable, very warm and beautiful. And we're going to get started here in just a little while. This video will be reposted on my channel, so that's why I'm able to just kind of talk. If you hear anything that comes up, please feel free to share in the chat, like whatever comes up for you. Please leave comments. Again, anything that comes up for you as you're listening, go ahead, pause, and comment about it. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Let's get a discussion going. You can use the chat or the comments as like a journal for yourself to kind of keep track of things as you're listening. That makes it really more of a learning and an interactive experience. And so before we get into the info, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has been watching and interacting with the videos on this small channel. I'm trying to think. Anyway, yeah, so on this channel, we just crossed 400 subscribers. So, you know, it kind of feels fun to start again and to look at these like small wins and be excited about them. You know, that's why I started this channel in this manner, because I wanted to start over. You know, I wanted something with less pressure, less expectations. I wanted to just be able to create and share. And I think when I first started YouTube, that was my idea. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what this YouTube is for. And once you start making money at something that you love doing as a hobby, it changes, right? So you have these bands, they get discovered, and before they were just making music from their heart and whatever, and then they get signed to this multi-million-dollar label, and all of a sudden it's, well, the fans want this, and the record label wants this, and you need to make this more that, and you need to change it to make it more, I don't know, marketable or politically correct or whatever, right? So for me, I do believe that, and looking at the pattern and the history of my past and of my life, being a storyteller, being professionally interesting is like what I was born to do. I was born to be an interesting person. Although I have been thinking about this as well recently, and I feel like people who had supportive families did not have to become charming or charismatic. Really, they didn't. Because they were just kind of accepted as like existing, like somebody like me or like other people, or, you know, even people who pursue fame or whatever. We had to rely on the attention of people who otherwise wouldn't have any interest in us, right? Because we didn't have that support from family. So it's like very interesting to me, the trade-offs that come with life. I remember meeting this girl, she was the fiance of a friend, and we all went out for dinner once. And this girl was like transfixed by me. Like normies I tend to really attract normies, along with the outliers, the people who are like me, the lone wolves, the vagabonds, the renegades. I had a meme about this. It was quite funny. I can't remember what the words were, but yeah. And so she was just like, wow, like I really wish I could be like you and have an entrepreneur and like, blah, blah, blah. And come to find out, this girl had a brother who he started a astrology website. Like I'm talking back in the 2000s. Like I think was it Astro Cafe? Like it's one of the like staple astrology websites. It's like very basic coding and script with like a bunch of ads and a bunch of offers and stuff on it. And he's like a multi millionaire now. And this guy was like in his like 28 years old from doing this. And this was her brother. And I was talking to her and like everyone else in her family. They were kind of like entrepreneurs or whatever. But she was like, I want to start my natural health business and just give like $40 consultations to people to help them take supplements and eat better. And like this girl had like no ambition. She had like no charisma, no magnetism, no charm. She was like very plain, very simple. And to me, and here's the thing, to me that is very appealing. You know what I mean? I like normies. A lot of my girlfriends were also normies. But, anyway. So yeah, it was just very interesting to me. And I was like trying to study her brother. And I'm like, man, what is this? Like this guy was just like, I was just very impressed. So anyway, I'm not sure how we got on this topic. I have had my espresso, my cajeta cappuccino from the corner store here in Mexico today. It's pretty lovely. I feel like it's not really gonna kick in. Sometimes it's like the watered down version, and then like I don't get, the little caffeine off of it, and I'm sad. We're going to start reading soon. This is kind of a last minute thing. You guys know me. I'm kind of, for this channel and, for my creative process in general, I'm a last minute kind of person. I'm really good at planning things. But that's like the big things, right? Like my retreats or events or clients that I see. Otherwise, everything else is kind of in God's timing. Do you know what I mean? Hey, Veronica, it's so good to see you. Aw. Veronica's always like, please go live. She's like, I know you don't want to do it. It's very cute. Thank you, Veronica. Yeah, you know what? I can do lives if I don't have to be on camera the whole time, right? And that's the great thing about internet and entrepreneurship. We make our own rules, right? We can do it our own way. Good to see you, man. You're on top of it. I love it. Thank you so much. Always good to see you. And so, what was I talking about? Entrepreneurship, being on your game. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to show you guys some things. So it's like kind of fun being on this live. I'm going to show you what it looks like outside because I know y'all all are not going to feel sorry for me, but it is a cold day in Mexico, okay? It rained last night, and I mean, it contributes to this place being a little paradise. Because like we have everything growing here. We have fruits, flowers, everything, but I don't like the rain. And it's like overcast. I'm gonna go up onto the roof of the building and try to find the sun because that's what always gets me through. But it's like overcast and quote unquote cold, which is like 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but that is freezing to me. And right now I have on some warm, like fur-lined sweatpants. If you have never got faux fur-lined pants before, you need to get them. You know, whether they're like leggings or like sweatpants, ladies, these are the warmest, coziest, most comfortable things ever. And then I've got my big wool socks, and then I've got a big sweatshirt on, and I feel wonderful with it. So I am going to close off the view, and then I'll open it outside on the balcony. Okay, hold on. So let's get going. I have got the phone plugged in. That's why I'm not using my microphone. You guys can see my backyard. And you know what has been my Christmas gift this year? 3 of my neighbors are gone for the holidays. Yes, that is my Christmas gift this year. All right, we're going out on the balcony, and you can see what I mean by cold. Look at this. Look, where's the sun? Where? I got some dogs barking. This is very uncommon. So they must be visiting relatives in town. But like right through there, on the other side of this tree, so like back here is like a ravine and like a jungle and like some water, and like beyond there is like some more residential areas. And my neighbors put up sparkling Christmas lights. Those people put up sparkling Christmas lights, and that made me extremely happy, so I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, now you've kind of seen the deck and the freezing cold, quote unquote freezing cold. And look, we even have fallen leaves. We have fallen leaves this time of year. And the weather yesterday was really, really beautiful. You know, the sun was out, and I was walking, and I was getting heated and getting some sun on my skin, but not on my face because we don't want wrinkles, right? All right, and where's the cat? No, she's not coming out. She doesn't like it when it's cold either. So we're gonna go back, and I'm gonna have a look in the comments. And what time are we at? Okay, let's get started reading that book in about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, but wait, oh, look at the squirrel in the tree. Here, let me see if I can zoom it in. Oh, I can. Hold on. Can you see where the tree is like really moving? Oh, now it's on the ground. I don't know. I am just so happy. Oh, whoa. There's another one at the tree. Look at him. Look at him. They're so cute. The other day I walked under a low-hanging tree, and right when I was underneath it, I heard this like munching sound, and I looked up, and there was a squirrel sitting there munching on a nut and looking at me. It was just like literally the cutest thing. Look at him. What is he eating? He's eating some bamboo. Like, imagine if that was your life. A squirrel that lived in Mexico in a bamboo tree. Come on. Not that bad. Right above a ravine in a valley. It's so cute. All right, let's head back inside and take a look at the book. All right, I'm gonna close this door. All right, Veronica said, I love what you said about how you're free to create and self-express till you have the pressure to make money. Yeah. I'm really biting my tongue. I don't want to reveal too much about what I'm planning for the future, because many of you know that I've been like, oh, I'm planning this, I'm planning that. Like, I don't know. I prefer to be of action rather than word lately. Ruled by Venus. Hello to you too. All right, so let's have a look. This book, whoa, we're totally zoomed in. I love this book. I have been reading this book for a very long time. I remember reading it when I was, gosh, like at least 10 years old at least. Maybe like, yeah, around 10 years old. So I remember thinking, can that be possible? And I was like, am I just remembering this wrong? Like, how old would this book have to be? So I looked, and I'm like, oh my God, it's true, 1978. And look at the title of this book, A new psychology of love, traditional values, and spiritual growth. Like when you hear this, this is basically, and the road less traveled. This, if I was represented by a book cover, the words written on a book cover, this would be the perfect representation. So I absolutely love this. And look at this, not just a book, but a spontaneous act of generosity. Oh, my heart. If someone ever said this about something I had written, my life would be complete. I get a lot of really great comments as well, but I mean, what a wonderful thing. And he put that on the cover. Excellent. Have any of you heard of M. Scott Peck? Are you interested in M. Scott Peck? Do you know where this book title is derived from? It's from a Robert Frost poem, which I also love. I hope you're enjoying your holiday. Do you plan to stay in Mexico forever? No. I'm already planning my next escape. However, yeah, weather is just something that's so important to me right now, and I really haven't figured out what to do about that. 6 months here is paradise, and the other 6 months is hell. Earthquakes, lightning, mosquitoes, torrential rain, and boiling hot and humidity. So yeah, I'm like, maybe other parts in Mexico. I'm trying to figure that out. But I'm feeling ready for another adventure, and ideas that I have had so far have been like Thailand, Croatia, Japan. I'm just not sure. I have to, and you know, and the whole thing, the whole issue is like with visas and residencies. And this ties you up in government red tape. And you guys know I hate that more than anything. And I'm good in Mexico. You know, I'm here for 4 years. Then I'm going to become a citizen. And if any of you want to marry me so you can get a citizenship here and pay me some money, I'm fine with that too. Just kidding. Just kidding. Oh, you guys want to see my sunflower plants? Okay, let me show you. Hold on. And okay, we have about 5 minutes before we start. If you are new here, please go ahead, say hi in the chat. Click the like button. Thank you to those who already did. Remember to hit notifications on this channel. Hit that bell so that when I go live randomly, you'll be able to know and join in, because I'm kind of a random chick. All right, let's go look at these plants. They are pretty terrible. I remember thinking like, well, I live in Mexico now. This is like a cheat code. And now all my plants are gonna be amazing because it's hot here and the sun is everywhere. So like the plants that I had in Canada will be like nothing compared to what I can grow here. I was wrong. I was wrong. So here are my little sunflowers. And one thing I love, there's like a million things I love about sunflowers. Look at how they're growing. And then look at this one. I woke up this morning and found this, y'all. Now, I don't know if my cat did this or if I did it by accident, because I have these big, heavy sweeping curtains nearby that I move away in the morning. And I'm like, did I do that or did my cat bite it? Because I'd seen her looking at these plants with interest and, you know, trying to take a little bite. She like sniffs them and then she'll leave. These are echinacea. I tried to plant echinacea flowers. And by the way, these plants are like probably like 2 months old. Like this is really, really bad growth. So I think they really need maybe some fertilizer, maybe some patience. I'm not sure. I was telling my sister that my plant growth strategy, you know, her and I grew up completely unaware of each other, completely separate, and we're so similar in a million ways. And she has like greenhouses and gardens where she grows medicinal plants and everything. So it's like really weird. Like we are into all the same stuff, and she's telling me what I have to do to improve them. And I'm telling her like, my my strategy for planting is plant and pray. Like that's what I do. You know, I'm not like, what's the pH? What's the conditions? I'm like, let me plant it, let me give it some water, put it in the sun and see what happens. And she told me, she's like, you need to get a, you know, what do you call it? Something so that they can like rise up and grow, you know, some structure. And, you know, stuff like that, like it can be hard to get here. It can be hard to find. It can be hard to describe. Like, how do you describe that in Spanish? It's a challenge. And then it can also be expensive because a lot of times it's imported. And then it has these weird taxes on top of it. And it's just like not really worth it. And also, I'm lazy. And it's like across town. And I feel like I always have a million things to do to manage my household and my life. But she's like, you need to get some structures for it. But look what this plant does. Look at what it does. It grows these bends and these curving bends. Look, at first it was like this. Look at that. Look how ingenious it is. So that it can stand up straight. It was grown to grow along the ground, but it wants to stand up straight. It wants to go to the sun, and it's been programmed by some master creator to have these wonderful curves that help it stand up straight. And then it looks for some structure, it hits on something, and it grows up. And it's just such a wonderful metaphor for life. And I don't know, I love sunflower plants. You know, I grew one on my balcony in Calgary, and it grew to like over like 6 feet tall on my little balcony. And I grew it in the house to begin with, and then I put it out in the balcony. I grew it in the house during the winter, and then I put it out in the balcony in the summer, and it just took off, and it was so beautiful. And I really want some more sunflowers. So we'll see how this goes. You know, these poor little echinacea, I don't think they really stood a chance. This one's broken. So I thinned these out, and yeah. Anyway, so this is my sunflower plants. We have about 2 minutes left before we get started on the reading. Let me head back to the chat. And you need a deeper pot for sure. Okay, that's one thing I already know. Trust me, I know that. However, I don't know. I kind of want to see what happens. That's like what I said. And you know what? Yeah, anyway. This is just like a fun little experimental thing for me. If one of them starts taking off at some point, I will put it in a different pot. Ultimately, I wanted to start them off, and in about 5 months, let's see how far down this went. Let's go check. Oh, I don't want to dig in there with my hands. Let's see how far down this went at this point. Oh. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So it's still developing. It'll be fine for some time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's about how deep these ones probably are. Maybe a bit more, but anyway. So I'm hoping that not hoping, my plan in about 5 or 6 months is to be living in a house or on a property. I went out to look at one a little while ago, and I made a video of it, which I'll be posting on my big channel soon. All right. This person says sounds like Florida. They're looking to relocate. They want to leave or want to move abroad, but not having to deal with visas and leaving. Yeah, I know. That's like the most annoying thing. So because of that, I kind of like signed up with Mexico, and I'm good for 4 years, and then I can become permanent resident citizen here. So I'm gonna take that, and then after that I'll decide what I want to do. Or I may leave earlier depending on you know, the chart of the stars, the direction of the wind. Who knows? We'll find out. All right. So and now I can hear this wonderful beeping noise. That's one thing about like living here in general or like living in the city, it's always kind of loud and always kind of annoying, and I don't know. I keep forgetting that, right? It's kind of like in toxic relationships sometimes we're like, this one's different, and you kind of forget the old lesson. And the lesson that I learned, I thought this one would be good because, hold on, I gotta plug in my phone. I thought the building was so quiet because it was empty, and there's beautiful trees, and this place has all concrete walls. Like, you can't even hang a picture without taking out a screw gun. But apartment living just is not for me. It'll make me miserable. And part of knowing yourself is knowing like what will work best for you. What do you need to thrive in life, right? And as we figure this out, we start to remove irritants from our life. We start to live in a way that's more suitable for us. And then we're able to further actualize our gifts in this world, right? All right, welcome everyone who's here. Thank you for hitting the like button. Remember to hit the notification bell, and let's get going. So, the Love is Disciplined chapter from The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. I have indicated that the energy for the work of self-discipline derives from love. And by the way, I'm going to interject here. When I read like these things talking about love, I just want people who, like myself, are single, human beings existing in a natural state in life, to remember that, of course, this can also mean self-love, okay? Yeah, so let's get into it. Even though he does talk about relationships as well. Okay. I love this. I've indicated that the energy for the work of self-discipline derives from love, which is a form of will. It follows then not only that self-discipline is usually love translated into action, but also that any genuine lover behaves with self-discipline, and any genuinely loving relationship is a disciplined relationship. If I truly love another, I will obviously order my behavior in such a way as to contribute the most to his or her spiritual growth. A young, intelligent, artistic, and bohemian couple with whom I once attempted to work had a 4-year marriage marked by almost daily screaming, dish-throwing, and face-clawing quarrels, along with weekly casual infidelity and monthly separations. Shortly after we began our work, they each correctly perceived that therapy would lead them toward increasing self-discipline and consequently to a less disorderly relationship. But you want to take the passion out of our relationship, they said. Your notions of love and marriage leave no room for passion. Almost immediately thereafter, they quit therapy. And it has been reported to me that 3 years later, after several bouts with other therapists, their daily screaming matches and the chaotic pattern of their marriage continue unchanged, as well as the unproductivity of their individual lives. That's important, right? The unproductivity of their individual lives. And that's when you realize that a relationship with somebody else has a huge impact on your individual life, on your spiritual quest as a person, right? As we're listening, anything comes up for you, go ahead and type it in the chat. There is no doubt that their union is, in a certain sense, a highly colorful one. But it is like the primary colors in the paintings of children, splashed on the paper with abandon, occasionally not without charm, but generally demonstrating the sameness that characterizes the art of young children. In the muted, controlled hues of Rembrandt, one can find the color, yet infinitely more richness, uniqueness, and meaning. Passion is feeling of great depth. The fact that a feeling is uncontrolled is no indication whatsoever that it is any deeper than a feeling that is disciplined. To the contrary, Psychiatrists know well the truth of the old proverbs: shallow brooks are noisy, and still waters run deep. We must not assume that someone whose feelings are modulated and controlled is not a passionate person. While one should not be a slave to one's feelings, self-discipline does not mean the squashing of one's feelings into non-existence. I frequently tell my patients that their feelings are their slaves, and that the art of self-discipline is like the art of slave owning. Oh, okay. First of all, one's feelings are the source of one's energy. They provide the horsepower or slave power that makes it possible for us to accomplish the tasks of living. Since they work for us, we should treat them with respect. There are two common mistakes that slave owners can make, which represent opposite and extreme forms of executive leadership. One type of slave owner does not discipline his slaves, gives them no structure, sets them no limits, provides them with no direction, and does not make it clear who is the boss. What happens, of course, is that in due time his slaves stop working and begin moving into the mansion, raiding the liquor cabinet, and breaking the furniture, and soon the slave owner finds that he is the slave of his slaves, living in the same kind of chaos as the aforementioned character disordered bohemian couple. I have to admit, I'm surprised that he's not admitting the lack of political correctness here. But I read this book when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Yet the opposite style of leadership, which the guilt-ridden neurotic so often exerts over his feelings, is equally self-destructive. In this style, the slave owner is so obsessed with the fear that his slave's feelings might get out of control and so determined that they should cause him no trouble. Oh, by the way, slaves, in other words, feelings, might get out of control and so determined that they should cause him no trouble that he routinely beats them into submission and punishes them severely at the first sign of any potency. Okay, so he's talking about someone who represses and controls their feelings and never feels them, as opposed to somebody who just like is completely controlled by his feelings and lets them run wild and free. The result of this style is that in relatively short order, the slaves become less and less productive as their will is sapped by the harsh treatment they receive, or else their will turns more and more toward covert rebellion. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Covert rebellion. That was like my ex-husband looking for someone to fight against. I'm like, I don't fight with people, sorry. All right, where are we? If the process is carried out long enough, one night, the owner's prediction finally comes true and the slaves rise up and burn down the mansion, frequently with the owner inside. Such is the genesis of certain psychoses and overwhelming neuroses. The proper management of one's feelings clearly lies along a complex and therefore not simple or easy balanced middle path, requiring constant judgment and continuing adjustment. Here the owner treats his feelings, aka referring to as slaves, with respect, nurturing them with good food, shelter, and medical care, listening and responding to their voices, encouraging them, inquiring as to their health, yet also organizing them, limiting them, deciding clearly between them, redirecting and teaching them all the while, leaving no doubt as to who is the boss. This is the path of healthy self-discipline. Among the feelings that must be so disciplined is the feeling of love. Hell yes. As I have indicated, this is not in itself genuine love, but the feeling associated with cathexis. It is to be very much respected and nurtured for the creative energy it brings, but if it is allowed to run rampant, the result will not be genuine love, but confusion and unproductivity. Wow, doesn't this just sound like every relationship I've experienced under the age of 30? Well, even 40, we could even go that far. Miss Fat Cat, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for joining, good to see you. Leave any comments of anything that comes up for you in the text in the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts. All right. Because genuine love requires an extension of oneself, vast amounts of energy are required. And like it or not, the store of our energy is as limited as the hours of our day. We simply cannot love everyone. True. True, we may have a feeling of love for mankind, and this feeling may also be useful in providing us with enough energy to manifest genuine love for a few specific individuals. But genuine love for relatively few individuals is all that is within our power. To attempt to exceed the limits of our energy is to offer more than we can deliver, and there is a point of no return beyond which an attempt to love all comers becomes fraudulent and harmful to the very ones we desire to assist. I totally agree with that, right? Having, what's the word? Prioritizing where your energy, your attention, and your love goes. Whether we're talking about a relationship or we're talking about self-discipline and self-love, right? Okay. Consequently, if we are fortunate enough to be in a position in which many people ask for our attention, we must choose those among them whom we are actually to love. This choice is not easy. It may be excruciatingly painful, as the assumption of godlike power so often is. But it must be made. Many factors need to be considered, primarily the capacity of a prospective recipient of our love to respond to that love with spiritual growth. Oh my God, I love that, right? So if you look at the modern idea of love for most people, the outcome of love is like a tingly feeling and a feeling good and a feeling this and, feeling validated. Look at this. He's saying, find people who will respond to your love with spiritual growth. Oh my God, it's beautiful. And also nurture those and prioritize those things in yourself. Put your love and attention on those things in your life that will result in your spiritual growth, right? You're going to figure out what those things are. People differ in this capacity, a fact to which more examination will later be given. It is, however, unquestionable that there are many whose spirits are so locked in behind impenetrable armor that even the greatest efforts to nurture the growth of those spirits are doomed to almost certain failure. To attempt to love someone who cannot benefit from your love with spiritual growth is to waste your energy. Where is my highlighter? To cast your seed upon arid ground. Genuine love is precious, and those who are capable of genuine love know that their loving must be focused as productively as possible through self-discipline. The converse of the problem of loving too many people also needs to be examined. Oh, I haven't had this issue in the past. I definitely don't have this issue, y'all. No. Let me know if you're someone who also does not have the problem of loving too many people. If you're the Christmas Grinch like me, let me know in the chat, okay? I had a lot of problems. That's not one of them. It is possible for some people, at least, to love more than one person at the same time, to simultaneously maintain a number of genuinely loving relationships. This itself is a problem for several reasons. One reason is the American or Western myth of romantic love that suggests that certain people are meant for each other. Thus, by extrapolation, they are not meant for anyone else. The myth, therefore, prescribes exclusivity for loving relationships, most particularly sexual exclusivity. On balance, the myth is probably helpful in contributing to the stability and productivity of human relationships. Since the vast majority of human beings are challenged to the limit of their capacities to extend themselves to develop genuinely loving relationships with their spouses and children alone. Indeed, if one can say that, I'll make sure my phone is plugged in. All right. One has genuinely built genuinely loving relationships with a spouse and children, then one has already succeeded in accomplishing more than most people accomplish in a lifetime. See, that's something I disagree with him on, but let's continue. I think we're coming to realize, well, I mean, that is an accomplishment. Okay, I can say that is an accomplishment. To have a loving, genuine, caring relationship with a spouse and family and children is an accomplishment. But it's, yeah, anyway. There is frequently something pathetic about the individual who has failed to build his family into a loving unit, yet restlessly searches for loving relationships outside the family. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Maybe there's a lesson there for me too, but let's continue. The first obligation of a genuinely loving person will always be to his or her marital or parental relationships. Nonetheless, there are some whose capacity to love is great enough for them to build loving relationships successfully within the family and still have energy left for additional relationships. For these, the myth of exclusivity is not only patently false, but also represents, I don't really want to read this. This is not really a problem that I think most of us have, right? Because this book was written in the 70s. There's some things that, I don't know. Let's skip this part. If any of you have problems with, like, you're like, I love my family and my children, but I also have trouble choosing how many other people in the world I can love. Like, I don't really feel like that's a modern problem anymore. I could get deeper into it, but that's fine. Let's keep going. Genuine love is self-replenishing, right? It's not the diminishing kind of love that when you end up with a man clown or a man baby that like drains you and makes you old before your time, right? It's self-replenishing. The more I nurture the spiritual growth of others, the more my own spiritual growth is nurtured. I am a totally selfish human being. I never do something for somebody else, but that I do it for myself. And as I grow through love, so grows my joy, ever more present, ever more constant. Neo-Puritan, perhaps I am. I am also a joy freak. As John Denver sings, love is everywhere. I see it. You're all that you can be. Go on and be it. Life is perfect. I believe it. Come and play the game with me. I'm not there yet. So yeah, I'm interested in discipline. So we finish that off. I don't really have anything to say about that chapter. I liked the title. I was kind of interested. I really liked what he said about love being a self-replenishing resource and considering how to prioritize where your attention and love goes in your life and to nurture things that result in spiritual growth. So like anything you do in your day, whatever you're planning out, you can say, does this result in spiritual growth? Even like resting, watching TV, watching movies, you could ask that and you'd be like, yeah, because I need to learn to rest and I need to take relaxation, right? Or someone like me who loves to do that, well, there you go. All right, now we're gonna move on to this next chapter, the nature of power. Hello and welcome to anyone who's just joining us. We are reading from The Road Less Traveled, A New Psychology of Love, Traditional Values, and Spiritual Growth by M. Scott Peck. This is a book that I started reading when I was like 10 years old. And it was printed in 1978. Does anyone know where the title of this book is derived from? This comment, this title, The Road Less Traveled, go ahead and put it in the chat. And this is my small channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell and subscribe. We just crossed 400 subscribers. It is kind of fun. And you'll be notified when new videos or lives are posted if you stay notified. So let's continue on. Okay, I want to read about the nature of power, right? These are some of the things I'm interested in life: entrepreneurship, power, energy, social dynamics, relationships, human potential, right? Brain, spirituality, flow state. Yeah, I'm so into flow state lately. And ideal living. I'm making a video for my main channel about how this, enclosed apartment living is not ideal for humans. It's not appropriate. It's not okay. Even people living in houses, what we really need to be doing is living in community with people who share similar values and ideals for how life should be lived, right? And that we can all help each other. Right? That is like the ideal for human mammals living on planet Earth. And when you think about Earth, it's like super weird. The other day I realized it's essentially like a game where you get injected into a reality and they're like, you have a spacesuit that you need to use to interact with this reality, and keep in mind it may blow up on you at any time, and your game is over. Like, isn't that weird? And you're expected to live like that. And they can be like, well, here's some things you can do to prevent your spacesuit from getting blown up. But yeah, like, we'll see what happens, kind of thing. Like, Earth is a really crazy mystery and adventure, and I'm always trying to figure stuff out about it. I have another video from my other channel. I woke up the other morning and I started writing out all these like crazy, like I figured out this theory that I've been going over and over and over again in my mind, searching for stuff, reading, listening to things, and I feel like I finally figured it out. So I'm gonna talk about it on my other channel. I have this whole like video planned. All right, let me see how long this chapter is. Oh, good. Okay, let's get through this chapter, the nature of power. We have now come to the point where we can understand the nature of power. It is a much misunderstood subject. One reason for the misunderstanding is that there are two kinds of power, political and spiritual. He's losing me already. Okay. Religious mythology takes pains to draw the distinction between the two. Prior to the birth of Buddha, for instance, the soothsayers informed his father that Buddha would grow up to become the most powerful king in the land, or else a poor man who would be the greatest spiritual leader the world had ever known. Either or, but not both. And Christ was offered by Satan all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, but he rejected this alternative in favor of dying, seemingly impotent, upon the cross. Political power is the capacity to coerce others, overtly or covertly, to do one's will. This capacity resides in a position such as a kingship or presidency, or else in money. It does not reside in the person who occupies the position or possesses the money. Consequently, political power is unrelated to goodness or wisdom. Very stupid and very evil people have walked as kings upon the earth. Spiritual power, however, resides entirely within the individual and has nothing to do with the capacity to coerce others. People of great spiritual power may be wealthy and may upon occasion occupy political positions of leadership, but they are as likely to be poor and lacking in political authority. Then what is the capacity of spiritual power if not the capacity to coerce? It is a capacity to make decisions with maximum awareness. It is consciousness. Most people, most of the time, make decisions with little awareness of what they are doing. They take action with little understanding of their own motives and without beginning to know the ramifications of their choices. Oh, hell yes, I've been there. How many of you have been sleepwalkers in life? And you look back and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, and in your mind, you're just literally like, I have no idea how that could have happened. It's happened to me so many times. Do we really know what we are doing when we accept or reject a potential client? When we hit a child, promote a subordinate, flirt with an acquaintance? Anyone who has worked for long in the political arena knows that actions taken with the best intentions will often backfire and prove harmful in the end. Or that people with scurrilous? I have never seen that word before. Can somebody search the definition of scurrilous? and put it in the chat, please. SCURRILOUS. Motives, I mean, I can guess, but I want to know what it means. May promote a seemingly wicked cause that ultimately turns out to be constructive. True. So also in the area of child raising, is it any better to do the right thing for the wrong reasons than the wrong thing for the right reasons? We are often most in the dark when we are the most certain, and the most enlightened when we are the most confused. What are we to do adrift in a sea of ignorance? Some are nihilistic and say, nothing. They propose only that we should continue to drift as if no course could possibly be charted in such a vast sea which would bring us to any true clarity or meaningful decision or destination. But others sufficiently aware to know that they are lost dare to hope that they can work themselves out of ignorance through developing even greater awareness. That is basically my life. I'm like, I know that I'm messed up and I want to find out how and fix it. And I'm going to keep doing that while just also accepting myself and being like, hey, this is life, you know? Living in the present moment. Okay. Let's keep going. The chat is kind of covering up the text. Hold on the desk here. They are correct. It is possible, but such greater awareness does not come to them in a single blinding flash of enlightenment. Oh, Lord, of course not. It comes slowly, piece by piece, and each piece must be worked for by the patient effort of study and observation of everything, including themselves. Hello, yep, that's my life. They are humble students. The path of spiritual growth is a path of lifelong learning. Yes, indeed. If this path is followed long and earnestly enough, the pieces of knowledge begin to fall into place. Yes, y'all. It's only still just coming together for me at 41. Gradually, things begin to make sense. There are blind alleys, disappointments, concepts arrived at only to be discarded. But gradually, it is possible for us to come to a deeper and deeper understanding of what our existence is all about. And gradually, we can come to the place where we actually know what we're doing. We can come to power. The experience of spiritual power is basically a joyful one. There's a joy that comes with mastery. Indeed, there is no greater satisfaction than that of being an expert, of really knowing what we are doing. Those who have grown the most spiritually are those who are the experts in living. And there is yet another joy, even greater. It is the joy of communion with God. For when we truly know what we are doing, we are participating in the omniscience of God with total awareness of the nature of a situation, of our motives for acting upon it, and of the results and ramifications of our action. We have attained that level of awareness that we normally expect only of God. Our conscious self has succeeded in coming into alignment with the mind of God. We know God. Yet those who have attained this stage of spiritual growth, this state of great awareness, are invariably possessed by a joyful humility. Oh, hell yeah. For one of their very awarenesses is the awareness that their unusual wisdom has its origin in their unconscious. They are aware of their connection to the rhizome and aware that their knowledge flows to them from the rhizome through the connection. So a rhizome is kind of like a root that a plant sends out. Their efforts at learning are only efforts to open the connection, and they are aware that the rhizome, their unconscious, is not theirs alone, but all mankind's, all life's, God's. Invariably, when asked the source of their knowledge and power, the truly powerful will reply, "It is not my power. What little power I have is but a minute expression of a far greater power. I am merely a conduit. It is not my power at all." I don't know, y'all, but I find people who say this tend to have a really big ego. I'm just saying. He wrote this book in 1978 before, like, all the virtual signaling on the internet. Like, to me, this is like the version of people who are like, I'm just like you guys. I am a real person too. Like, those people who come out and post stuff like that? That like shows you that they think that they're like special or they're not like you. The fact that they have to come out and be like, hey, I'm actually just like you. It's like, yeah, we all thought that. Okay. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. For me, if somebody comes and asks about the source of my knowledge and power, I wouldn't say, oh, I had nothing to do with it. It just all comes from God. No, I wouldn't say that at all. Because, I mean, like, I agree, like, everything comes from God. If I'm like, where the source of your shoes? Oh, I have nothing to do with these shoes. These shoes came from the source and they came from God. It's like, okay, girl, like, that's not what people are asking. I'd be like, well, I came to my spiritual knowledge by dealing with difficult things in life with grace and dignity, by making choices that would benefit my spiritual growth instead of shrink it away, right? This is what really, really struck me. And I really need to stop, talking about my ex-husband, but looking back, like, this is what really, really struck me about his character, is that, like, it seemed like every time in his life he was presented an opportunity for bravery, he always took the cowardly way, and resulted in a man, in his mid-40s who's a cowardly person, right? And to be fair, in my life, what I did wrong is, like, every time I had an opportunity to put in work and to commit and to stay the course, like whether it was like in school or with a new pursuit, I always chose the easy way. And, that has pros and cons. One of the cons I learned from that was, from that marriage itself, right? I was like, I want a family. I want to be a farm worker. I want a partner. I want to be married. So yeah, I'm going to take this, even though I knew it was not right for me, right? I took the easy way and I paid. So yeah, I mean, repeatedly making a certain type of decision develops your character. So in many opportunities where I had the opportunity to be cowardly or be a victim, I stood up with dignity and with grace and with strength, and that became a part of my personality to this day, that I'm really proud of as well. So gotta look back on your patterns. All right. Oh, I find this quote from the Bible to be very irritating. Let thy will, not mine, be done. Make me your instrument is their only desire. I find most people don't truly understand this. Let's just continue reading. Such a loss of self brings with it always a kind of calm ecstasy, not unlike the experience of being in love, aware of their intimate connectedness to God. They experience a surcease of loneliness. Interesting. Surcease. Okay, so this is a way of talking about the ceasing of something. I'm not familiar with that, but cool. There is communion. Joyful though it is, the experience of spiritual power is also terrifying. For the greater one's awareness, the more difficult it is to take action. Not for me. I mentioned this. Is that a plane flying overhead? Or is that my neighbor watching the TV again, meaning that they have come back from their holiday? Okay. I mentioned this this fact at the conclusion of the first section when I gave the analogy of two generals, each having to make a decision of whether or not to commit a division to battle. The one who regards his division simply and solely as a unit of strategy may sleep easily after having made his decision, but for the other, with his awareness of each of the lives of the men under his command, the decision will be agonizing. We are all generals. Whatever action we take may influence the course of civilization. The decision whether to praise or punish a single child may have vast consequences. This is why I constantly talk about stuff like this in videos, right? Vast consequences. It is easy to act with the awareness of limited data and let the chips fall as they may. The greater our awareness, however, the more and more data we must assimilate and integrate into our decision making. The more we know, the more complex decisions become. Yet the more and more we know, the more it becomes possible to predict just where the chips may fall. If we assume the responsibility of attempting to predict accurately just where each chip will fall, we're likely to feel so overwhelmed by the complexity of the task as to sink into inaction. How many of you are at that point where you're like, this living the kind of life I want and all the things I'm going to have to do to get there is so overwhelming that I'm just going to do nothing, right? But then inaction itself is a form of action, and while doing nothing might be the best course of action under certain circumstances, in others it may be disastrous and destructive. So spiritual power is not simply awareness, it is the capacity to maintain one's ability to still make decisions with greater and greater awareness. And godlike power is the power to make decisions with total awareness. But unlike the popular notion of it, omniscience does not make decision-making easier. Rather, it becomes ever more difficult. The closer, yeah, that's true, actually. That's so true. The closer one comes to godhood, the more one feels sympathy for God. To participate in God's omniscience is also to share his agony. Oh, you lost me there. All right. There's another problem with power, aloneness. Here, there is a similarity in at least one dimension between spiritual and political power. Someone who is approaching the peak of spiritual evolution is like someone at the peak of political power. There is no one above to whom to pass the buck. Oh, there we go. You can't blame anyone anymore. You can't sit there going, the government, my parents, God. You get to a point where you're like, no, this is on me, and my experience of reality is on me, right? Oh, it's hard. No one to blame, no one to tell you how to do it. There may not even be anyone on the same level to share the agony or the responsibility others may advise, but the decision is yours alone. You alone are responsible. In another dimension, the aloneness of enormous spiritual power is even greater than that of political power. Since their level of awareness is seldom as high as their exalted positions, the politically powerful almost always have their spiritual equals with whom they can communicate. Yeah. So presidents and kings will have their friends and cronies, but the person who has evolved to the highest level of awareness of spiritual power will likely have no one in his or her circle of acquaintances with whom to share such depth of understanding. I'm lucky I have a few people who are at similar levels of evolution. Thank you, God, for that, but it took a long time. One of the most poignant themes of the Gospels and Christ's continual sense of frustration on finding that there was no one who could really understand him. No matter how hard he tried, how much he extended himself, he could not lift the minds of even his own disciples to his level. Oh, that always struck me as hysterical, as super hysterical. The disciples were always asking him the most annoying and juvenile questions. God, they go to Jesus like, when heaven comes, where should we go to see heaven? How do we get into heaven? And all his answers were just like, you could easily put the words, you fools, in front of it, in front of each of his responses. He's like, the kingdom of heaven is spread over the earth and men do not see it. If someone tells you, hey, go over here to see the kingdom of heaven, or hey, do this to see the kingdom of heaven, it's a lie. Right? And what do we see in the Bible? If you want to go to heaven, do this and that, right? People have corrupted parts of it, right? And even people who, like, after they die, they talk about being called into the light. That's a lie. They tell you, oh, go to heaven, go to the light. Yeah, that's what you're going to do if you want to get recycled back on the earth plane. Go ahead and do that. You don't have to go anywhere to experience heaven. right? It's a vibration, it's a consciousness, it's a state. All right. Just as we know about hell. Okay. As a burden, we simply cannot be born, and community make it a distinction between a loneliness and a loneliness. Loneliness is the unavailability of people to communicate with on any level. Powerful people are surrounded by others only too eager to communicate with them. Hence, they are seldom lonely and may even yearn for loneliness. Aloneness, however, is the unavailability of someone to communicate with at your level of awareness. You know, even when I was a kid, I was really lucky. I had one friend who was at my level back then. Her and I are completely different places now. Completely different. In fact, there's only one line left to this story. Okay, we're gonna end it there, but I'm gonna tell you this story about this friend of mine. And yeah, so she was like super awesome. You know, I would spend the whole afternoon writing some crazy story, and she would sit there and read it, right? And I would wait. Well, she just sat there and read through, and she's like, wow, this is really good. And she would like criticize some things and agree with some things. And she was like a good friend of mine, you know, and